Candi Marie.
And I'm Mena Diaz, and welcome to the Moving Up Together podcast.
Cities and neighborhoods across the country have nonprofits, community organizations, and even government programs that work every day to support and invest in the people so they can thrive. And full disclosure, this podcast was created by a national nonprofit called UpTogether. So, still, despite their, or rather our, good intentions, we often fall short of creating the positive change we want to see.
And I'd even argue that it's because we don't actually take the time to listen. Listen, not speak or listen to speak, but actually listen. And if we just take that time to hear what one another have to say, we can create solutions, programs, and initiatives together that benefit all of us. So let's start the conversation today.
Yes, let's start the conversation. Special guests today are Mrs. Christina Gonzalez and Councilwoman Julia Mejia. Christina is a mom of four from San Antonio, Texas, a hard worker all of her life. She got sick at the age of 33 and was forced to slow down. She had to learn how to navigate the system to receive disability benefits and has lots of ideas for how that system can improve and better serve people.
And Councilwoman Julia Mejia is the first Afro-Latina to sit on the Boston City Council. Originally from the Dominican Republic and raised by a single mother who was undocumented for most of her childhood, she was forced at an early age to speak up on behalf of her mother and others who felt ignored by the very institutions that were supposed to serve them. That's become a lifelong pursuit for justice and equity, leading her to work as a public servant today. Christina Councilwoman Mejia, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. So before we jump in, we kind of want to, shake things up a little bit if you ladies don't mind. What is a fun fact that we should know about each of you? Let's start with Christina. How about you?
Wow, I'm not even sure. Oh no, I do. My goal right now is to go into ministry. I am working my hardest at learning everything I can about the Bible, of just learning all the stories and, learning what I need to know to actually fully be able to help other people. I've got a lot of testimonies, I've gone through a lot in my life. So I do have that experience already with just knowing how it is to be broken, knowing how it is to be depressed and, just that whole side of I feel what you need to be equipped with in order to really help other people that are going through those kind of things. So I have the experience. And now really what I'm working on is just having the knowledge of being able to like spiritually help other people. So right now my main focus is just ministry, which is not something that I ever thought I would be going into, something that I didn't see my life going on that route. I was more focused on work and where I wanted to work and how much money I wanted to make. And of course, being disabled at this age, it did have a big setback, but it also gave me that opportunity and just more time to spend with God and to spend with actually learning the word so that I can just help other people in this situation.
I love that, Christina. That was absolutely powerful. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that you were able to find a purpose through your pain, you know? So thank you for sharing that. And I can't wait to see you doing your thing and ministering. I can't wait to hear what you share and how you change the world. I'm ready to see it. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to throw it over to you, Julia. What is your fun fact that we should know about you?
Okay, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you all this day. I was part of the original squad when it was when FII was first initiated and UpTogether transitioned into this platform. So I feel like I'm an OG. So that's something y'all you should know. That I was the original UpTogether.
Yes.
I go back, way back. But if there's a fun fact that you may want to know about me is that I used to be on air. I was talent for MTV. I was a reporter, and I covered the presidential elections in 2000, and went from being a reporter to when I had my makeup done and things brought to me to then having to go behind the scenes as a production assistant and started from the bottom and worked my way up to the top because I was tired of people writing scripts for me that did not really reflect my voice. And so it was a very humbling experience to go from being talent to being a PA. But it was one of those things that I felt like it was humbling, but it was exactly what I needed because I wanted to tell my own stories. And that part of my journey at MTV, not many people know that I went from being, you know, on air to behind the scenes and literally carrying people's coffees and booking people's makeup appointments. But it really taught me a lot. I was there for 10 years
Wow.
after being on air. And I've used that. Um, I've used what I've learned in New York to help support my people here and back in Boston.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that because you know what? Something that you said really resonated. Working from the ground up and telling our stories because our stories matter and people don't always know how to articulate our stories. And we're the best ones to tell it. So, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I want to thank both of you ladies first for sharing that. And it's always nice to meet another OG in the business. So, thank you. Now, I want to shift it over to Christina. Now, we mentioned in the intro that you got sick at a really young age, 33, and you had to get on a disability while still raising your 4 kids. So, what happened? What are some of the challenges you've had with accessing your disability benefits by the way you and all of us pay for through payroll taxes? And then also, what do you think it will take? And what do you think it will take to make the system better?
The biggest struggle, I mean, it started from the very beginning. When I got disabled, or when I first got sick, I was 31 years old. I had heart surgery. I had to have a pacemaker put in. I didn't realize that I even had heart issues at the time. It started with just fainting and being tired all the time, and of course having 4 children in sports and in school, and it was kind of where I thought, maybe I'm just tired because I've got 4 kids, to coming into needing emergency heart surgery. So from there, it was okay. I wasn't too worried about getting the disability check. I was more worried about, qualifying for the Medicare and Medicaid because I knew that this was just the start of it. Having heart surgery was the beginning. I have a pacemaker that needs to get checked, every 6 months. I've got follow-ups that I need to do, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford those on my own. So with that, it was automatically where you have to be unemployed. I believe it's 1 year to even apply for disability. You cannot work, you cannot have any kind of income, you can't show that you're able to work. So even being that I may not have been able to work as much as I could previously, I was still capable to some extent. I could still do an office job and, not do the physical stuff that I was doing before, but I would have been able to at least provide for my family if I wasn't given that ultimatum with, you work for 1 week, you start over a whole year of not having to work to just qualify. So that was very hard on me with having to do that, having to make that decision. Once I did qualify for disability and I was getting my SSI checks, you get that limit of you can have a part-time job, but you can only make, I don't remember what it was back then, but I know right now it's about, $1,000 a month from your part-time job before you no longer qualify. So it's like, okay, you add that up with the disability amount that I get, it still doesn't support a family. It doesn't pay a mortgage. It doesn't pay a car. It pays some of it, but it doesn't cover everything.
It's
So
crazy.
you're yeah, so you're put there, and the more I dug into it, it was like, okay, is this the amount that I'm always gonna get? From disability, I get $842. And I was told, yes, this is the amount you get because this is the amount that you paid into your disability or your SSI.
Yeah.
Well, I was disabled at 31, 32 years old. So of course I didn't have a lot of time to pay into it. So because I was disabled at a young age, I will always get a small check.
Yeah.
I won't get a bigger amount. Being now with I now have a lot more illnesses than just my heart. So now I do infusions every week. My out of pocket care or my out-of-pocket pay for that is $375 a week, which has made me make the decision to not work at all. I stopped working in February when I found out that I needed these infusions to be weekly because I couldn't afford the copay and I didn't qualify for Medicaid with having a part-time job.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it really just became a huge circle of you can't you can't do this, you can't work, you can't make this amount. We're gonna take the Medicaid, we're gonna take the Medicare, we're gonna take the disability. So it's been hectic. It's been a roller coaster. I've called and asked, what can I do? What other options are there? I need these treatments in order to live. I need them in order to survive. And there is no option. There is nothing where you can say, you can prove, I die if I don't get these, but I also need to work at some point. It doesn't matter. If you have an income, you have an income to a certain point, you lose out. You have to say goodbye to Medicaid. You have to say goodbye to Medicare. Even being that I am fully disabled, even being that this is life term for me, it's like it doesn't really matter that you're always going to need that assistance. You still got to choose to be on the bottom to get that assistance. So
Yeah.
it's been hard. It's been very hard.
It's a losing game. It's a game, and I hate to refer to as these subsidies and these helps and stuff like that, but it is a game because how does it make any sense? Listen, if you were making over 500,000 a year, half a mil, I get it. I totally get it. But that's not the reality for most Americans. And I feel you on that, where it's just like you want to get ahead, and this is holding you back, for you're getting held back for literally life-saving treatments. And that is ridiculous. That is, that just drives me. I can't even begin to, wrap
Yeah,
my head around that.
like I said, I got disabled when I was 31, got disability when I was 33. And the second I approved, of course, I had to wait that year without having it in order to just get my disability and my Medicare. And the second they gave it to me, I picked up a part-time job. And I've worked all the way up until this past April, which, 7 years of being on disability, I still continue to work. Every year they would send out that notice with, this is what you're allowed to make now. And I
Mhm.
would request that many extra hours. I would tell my job, this is what I can get now. I would push it to those last couple of dollars that I was able to make until, of course, my health got to a point where now we need Medicaid. We don't only need Medicare, we need Medicaid to cover the copays, to cover medications, to cover surgeries. It did get to the point where it's like, you no longer have a choice. I think this last time around when I called in April, I was able to work $220 a month, was going to be my limit. And it was like, no job is going to pay me for 5 hours a week. No job is going to
Right.
give me that kind of limitation. So it just came down to, now you cannot work. Even if you have a little bit of energy in you to work from home, you don't have that option because you need treatment. You need to be able to survive. So it's been hard. It's hectic.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart that you even have to choose. So with that being said, what do you think it will take to make the system better? Because it needs to be better. You shouldn't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself of do I have to, you have to choose between your sickness and getting benefits. What do you think, it should take to make the system better?
I think a better look at what these medications are costing us. Of course, I know that it's going to be hard because you would actually have to have people that are going to sit there and look at it by case basis. Not everybody has a copay of $1,800 a month like I do. Sometimes it's smaller, sometimes it's larger. But I think taking a look at, this is the copay that she has. We do need her to be on Medicaid. And not even at that, if it's not qualifying me for Medicaid, at least raising the amount that I'm able to work. I
Mhm.
can work from home. I worked from home for 2 years. I'm able to sit at my desk and do some things. But why put a limit on how much I can sit at my desk and work
Right.
when I can make extra money that the state's not paying out? The state, I'm not asking the state to pay for my medical costs. I want the state to raise that limit so that I can work enough to pay my bills. I can work enough to pay my medical, my infusions, to pay medication, let me at least be allowed to do that. Don't sit here and put a limit on me when I'm physically limited. I know that it was very hard to accept the fact that I was going to be disabled at 31 years old. That already hurt me. That already was heartbreaking for me.
Right.
And now I've got to juggle with, I can't work this many hours. I can't take my kids out to eat. I can't buy them extra stuff because I'm struggling to pay for my medication, or I'm not allowed to work certain amount of hours. Let me work. Let me at least try to provide for my family. And of course, yes, I would need assistance possibly, but I think this medication cost, of course, is high. It's very high. But I really feel like there's a way around this. I really feel like it needs to be looked at better on a case by case basis, or just maybe not individually, but maybe people in a group of these people, even people with cancer, it's expensive to have cancer. It's expensive to be sick. So really, I just think it needs to be looked at better.
Yeah. And we can all agree that it is a complicated system to navigate, just ridiculously complicated. I know for me, growing up within the system, because I'm first generation born here, and growing up within the system, I had to do a lot of figuring things out at a very young age to help my mom to help me. So that's going to segue into this other question for you ladies. Julia, I'm going to ask you this. With the States being an immigrant country, because it is, whether people want to agree with it or not, it's fact. The United States of America is an immigrant country with people from all over the world who come here and try to make their lives better. You were born in DR, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so you came here what age did you come here with your mom?
So I came here when I was 5.
When you were 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I also had to learn how to speak English, because when you come to this country at a later age, it's harder for you to learn how to speak English. So I had to learn how to speak English quick, because I too navigated systems. So, I remember being at the welfare office. Probably was 9 years old at the time. I think that's where I started learning how to fight. Being 9 years old and having to translate for my mom. And I remember the case manager was incredibly mean.
Yeah.
And I had to translate, and I chose not to tell my mom what the case manager had, all of the, I only told my mom what she needed to know.
You filtered it.
I filtered it, right? And then when it was my turn to translate on behalf of my mom, I added things that my mom did not say, but I said it for her, because I said, my mom said that you don't have to be so mean. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. Like I share this story because these systems that we're talking about have been designed specifically to keep people who are poor, who are in need, in that type of environment. And when you are an immigrant to this country in particular, and there's that extra layer of language barrier, your kids are the ones who have to translate, and they're the ones who have to shoulder that burden of disregard and disrespect, and trying to get services with dignity is harder. And so, yes, this whole immigrant journey to this country, I had to learn at a very early age how to fight for my people. And I became the official translator for my mom and everybody else around the way. I was that kid that everybody brought with them to the welfare office, to the court, to the doctor's appointment, because they knew if they brought me, they were going to get what they wanted. They were going to have somebody to fight for, right?
Yeah.
And, that's just norm for folks. And I've navigated, very similar to Christine's story. Like, I remember when I enrolled, I'm sorry, I have a dog and he's scratching himself, so you might hear that. I remember when I enrolled in FII, what now UpTogether, I don't know, however many years ago, I was experiencing what they call a cliff effect. I was not earning my potential. I had to start literally from the top. I had gotten pregnant. I had to get a real, I had my own business, but I had to transition into the nonprofit sector because that's the work that I did beforehand. Anyways, fast forward to, I had to go to the welfare office in my 40s, my early 40s. And that was the most humbling experience, because there I was, the person who was on the other side was someone who was my intern, and having to go on food stamps, mass health, um, all of this just to survive, if you will, and just to get support for childcare. I couldn't work in my full potential. I had to reduce the number of hours so that I could qualify for my child care. And it goes to Christina's point, is like, I want to work. I want to be able to work at my full potential, but I couldn't make X amount of dollars, because if I did, then I would no longer qualify for that voucher. And those are the traps that continue to keep us where we belong. And the way the system is designed isn't really with this idea of really helping people get up and out of poverty. It's always this, like, how we're going to give you just as much as you need so that you can continue to be reliant on the system, which is one of the reasons why I was so excited to be able to build my capacity, and through my organizing, through UpTogether, and through the whole network, created a number of initiatives that really help people understand their political power. And through that work was able to become a community organizer, develop that into my own nonprofit organization. And so this whole idea, the way, just because the system is the way that it is, doesn't necessarily mean that we have to continue to function within that status quo and within that system, which is one of the reasons why I decided to run for office, because I wanted to go behind, see what's behind that curtain, and figure out how, through my own lived experience, how I can shift policy, how I can continue to work with those who are living the realities to inform the work that needs to happen. While I'm on the local level, and a lot of the things that Christina is talking about are things that are happening on the state and federal level in terms of just policies, there are some things that I've been able to do on the local level to shift, to support people. And that work, even though it's small, it does make an impact. It does have a ripple effect on the lives of those that we serve here in the city of Boston.
Yeah. And I have a question, because our central theme today is respect, right? And all of us have had to deal with the system in one way or another. And I kind of want to go square by square, because we're in little squares right now for the folks that can't actually see us. So I'm going to start with you, Candi, since you're right there in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the main question is, had you been treated with just a little bit of kindness when you were dealing with your situation and dealing with, because people, like you said, Christina said it, people were mean, or, they're mean to you. Had you been treated with just a little bit of respect and a little bit of just humanity, how much different do you think you would have been able to deal with mentally what you were going through at that time, dealing with the system?
This is a great question. I literally just had this conversation with someone the other day, and I come from another system, which is foster care. And when I think about my family, and just like you said, Julia, we were just poor. People have all of these assumptions of how people end up the way they do, and these are their own preconceived views. People think, was your mother or father on drugs? What did they do wrong? They were literally just poor. They were just working with what they had, and what they had just wasn't a lot. And instead of trying to provide us with resources and focusing on unifying the family, it just felt like people were just trying to find ways to tear us apart and to keep us separate, and I think about my mom, dealing with mental health, and if she would have just received some help. And when I think about my father, if he would have just had a little more guidance, I think that our family would have seen a different level of success. And, those statistics that we often see, 1 in, 5 foster youth don't graduate. I'm 1 in 6, and I'm the only one that graduated out of the 6, so I just think that I wish that things would have gone a lot differently. I wish we would have been treated differently. I wish my mother and my father would have received respect. Because even as that child, I was that child that you were, Julia, for your family. I was the one that was speaking up. I was the one that was seeing things. I was the one that had to grow up a lot faster than I should have, when I should have just had the opportunity to just be a kid. So I think that one thing that I wish is that a lot of people, when you're in these positions, you don't lose sight of your humanity, because at the core, we are all people and we are all human beings, and we just want to be seen. We are all dealt different cards, but how can we help each other and not, keep each other down and step on each other? So.
Yeah. Christina, how was it? How do you think it would have been for you? I mean, the hoops are there. We have to jump through the hoops anyway. But how do you think it would have been for you had someone just had a little bit more humanity with you and while you were going through applying for disability and trying to apply for Medicare and all of that?
I did end up going through full blown depression about 8 months after heart surgery. 8 months after finding out that I was going to be disabled. Just finding out that everything was not going to be the way I thought it was. I did end up getting hospitalized in the state hospital for about 2 weeks and had to do outpatient treatment. And a lot of it was that I found everything so hard, calling and just asking simple questions of somebody that is newly disabled, somebody that has never been in this situation before and has never, had to ask any of these questions. It was a lot of attitude, like, you should already know this, don't you know? Or, don't you know what it takes? Obviously, you need to not work for a year, obviously. And I was like, no, I don't obviously know any of this. I'm not going through this regularly. I wasn't surrounded by people that are on disability, especially at my age. So I think if it would have been a lot more compassion from people and just actually people wanting to help you, not people that are sitting at their desk because they need an income, but people that have those jobs because they want to help people in the situation they're in. They have that compassion, that the fact that somebody is going through something that they've never been through before. Of course, it would have made things a lot easier. They may not know me and they may not know my story, and they don't need to know why or how I'm disabled. But when you have compassion for somebody, you have compassion just because you're a compassionate person, because you love one another. um, you don't have to tell somebody, hey, I'm disabled, this is what's going on in my life. No, it's, hey, I need help. Can you walk me through these steps? And just be like, of course, because that person needs help.
Julia, for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my life has been a series of pushing people to recognize our humanity, right? So I talk about this, moment that I had when I was 9 years old, and it's been like that consistently in every space that I have been in, right? I think that people have this preconceived notion that just because you are poor, you are less than.
Yeah.
And having to show up in ways that challenge that stereotype is what I live for, right? Um, you know, I was the first person in my family to graduate high school and college. My mom never made it beyond third grade, and to this day is 73 years old and too poor to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So having to create space for my mom to also see that despite all of that, she's still fabulous and she's still dope and she's still,
Yes.
like, that helps me help her recognize that coming to this country and overcoming all the hardships that she has makes her just as equally, if not even more important than some other folks that might be in that room, right? So to help my mom understand her power. And I
Yeah.
think that doing that for other folks, right? And also recognizing your own stuff while you're navigating in these spaces has helped me recognize that I am worthy, that I don't have to prove myself, that nobody's pedigree or degree is going to minimize my lived experience because my lived experience is mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that, sometimes outweighs the degrees and the suits that I have to like contend with half the time that I'm in these rooms, right?
Yeah.
And those are my moments. That's when I see myself as a superhero. I got my cape, right? Like,
I'm a superhero. Mm-hmm.
um, so I just think the last thing that I'll say is that on the city council, one of the first things that I filed early on I've only been in office for 2.5 years, but one of the things that I did when I first came in was to change the language that we use when we're talking about our people. We're always leading with the deficits. Oh, our vulnerable communities, at risk. What I've been challenging people to say that we are the resilient community. because despite everything that we've been through, we are still standing. And if we could lead with our assets instead of our deficits, then we start shifting the way that people treat those who are living in poverty, because people who live in poverty know how to balance a budget. They know how to work with what they have. And sometimes they dress better than people who got, access to dollars, because when you're poor, you know how to make it work.
Creative.
Creativity. So I think it's really important for all of us to recognize that no matter where we happen to be in life, that if we choose to experience that from a place of asset and not deficit, then it'll shift everything for ourselves and for those who are interacting with us.
And you have a nonprofit as well, correct?
Yeah, I started a nonprofit, and it was really hard because it was one of those nonprofits that nobody really wanted to invest in, because it was really about building parent power. And most funders wanted us to fit within their scope of work, and I challenged that norm, and I said, no, we want to lead in ways that are culturally reflective, and we didn't want to deal with other people's political ideologies. We really wanted to be honest about the work, and we challenged the funding community. And I always used to say I would rather walk away from money than to tap dance for it, and that gave us a sense of liberty and dignity. To be honest with you, the parents that founded alongside me this organization, the organization is still standing, and we stand on our principles and our values. And there's nothing like that freedom of really being able to represent yourself as you are, and hold only yourself accountable to the people that you serve, not the funding community.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. And I agree with you 100%. It's up to us to change the narrative. And just listening to both of your stories, you guys have both shifted the narrative and changed the narrative in different ways, by saying, you know what, I am going to take control of what's going on in my life. Christina, I felt like that's what you did, and also with you, Julia, and creating an organization and fighting back and taking control of your story and who says what about it. So let's think about some of these organizations that we've all talked about and we all know about that are creating programs and policies about us without us. They're telling us what to do and how to do it as if we're not capable and intelligent. Like we're literally just saying right now. And it is disrespectful and it's hurtful and they're not keeping us in mind. So with that being said, how does that resonate with you and your individual stories?
Yeah, I'll just go really quick. I have this mantra, and I heard it at a conference, so I don't want you all to think that I came up with it, okay? That's the disclaimer, y'all. And I say this everywhere that I go, is that nothing about us without us is for us. Nothing about us without us is for us. And I say this because people are always planning things, and then they come around our way and ask us to react to something that we had absolutely nothing to do with. And we have to shift that. We have to be in deep community with those who are living the realities and doing the work to inform every single decision that we make on the policy, front, in the nonprofit sector, is that those who know the realities have the best solutions. And I think that we have an opportunity to not just about creating, a seat at the table, because even when they invite us to the table, they set terms and conditions, or they ask us to sit in the kitchen or give us the menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't set me up for like you invited me in, but then you're letting me know how I should show up. So there's a lot of work that policymakers and nonprofit folks and just systems need to really start reevaluating what real engagement looks like. And if it's not centering people, then you're not really doing the work. And then the last thing that I'll say is that I really this has been one of my biggest pet peeves since I started my nonprofit, and even now as a city councilor, is that we always expect people to come and be volunteers. And meanwhile, everybody around that table is getting paid except the people who are living the realities.
And
So
doing the real work.
doing the real work, right? So we need to see that lived experience is also seen just as equally as important as those consultants from Harvard that are sitting at the table making thousands of dollars, while those who are living the realities that are being the guinea pigs and being introduced by it, they're lucky if they get a $5 gift card, right? So we have to shift that entire system. So people like Christina, who Christina, she just wants to have dignity, right? And if she can't get it through work, she should be a consultant and she should be getting paid for her lived experience and
Say
telling
that.
stories, right? And you know who should be paying for it? The insurance companies, right? Like we need to find ways to hold corporate and other folks accountable to the fact that they are making money while the people who are living the realities are getting the crumbs. And we need to shift that entire system so that if we're really serious about disruption, that's what that's going to look like.
Yes, listen, because lived experience has value. Where is our respect? If anything, it has more value. I would much rather, bring somebody to have a seat at the table that actually knows what it feels like, that has actually walked a mile in those shoes.
Yep.
How about you, Christina?
That's exactly how I feel. I feel like the reason why it's so hard for them to connect to us or to connect to communities that are low income is because they're not low income. They're not, they don't live in that environment. They haven't lived it yet. So how can they sit there and dictate what we need to survive, what help we need, what programs we need? No. Allow the people that are in this situation to determine that. If you're funding these corporations that have come up because most of these people have gone through it and they've started a nonprofit organization because they want to help people that are going through what they're going through. So allow them that. Allow them, the people with the experience of going through these struggles, to determine how they're going to help other people, because every single community is different. Every single group of people is different. We all have different struggles. We're disabled for different reasons. We're low income for different reasons. There's just so many different stories that to just sit there and think that everybody is the same or everybody can be helped in the same way is completely wrong. And I think that's where things are getting held back. That's why it's taking so long to help people out of the situation, is because you're throwing everybody into the same pile, and it can't work that way. That's not how it's going to go.
Right.
And it shouldn't have to go that way. Don't box us in. We want to be seen. Where's our respect? Because we deserve that.
Yeah. And that's a huge it's a huge undertaking from our communities, from ourselves, especially even those who if I have the time, I need to start volunteering more. I need to start pushing myself to do these things because I'm healthy and I'm in a position where I can, right? So if more people start taking that kind of initiative, that's a step right there. Now, there's one thing I do want to touch on where it's and Julia, I think you mentioned this earlier. We're dealing with a whole hot mess from the federal level, and then the local level, and then the macro local level. So you're talking about your federal, your country, you're talking about your states, and then you're talking about your different counties even within those states. You guys are both from different parts of the country, so Texas and Boston. What is something that you would like to say to your local leaders that you think they should be paying attention to, as far as what your specific need is in San Antonio, is in Boston, is, what's something that you can say will affect you, at least at that level, before we even get started on the whole fight, the federal fight? Christina?
I'm not too familiar with what level is federal and which level is state or city. So of course, like I said, my biggest struggle is the income guidelines that are given, for food stamps, the income guidelines that are given for Medicaid and for Medicare, and it's to the point where I do understand that there is an income given for a reason, because if not, everybody's gonna get food stamps, everybody's gonna get Medicaid, whether they need it or not. But I don't even feel like they give people the opportunity to come up. It's okay. I'm low income. I'm getting food stamps while I'm low income. And then that very first paycheck where you get a raise, that very first paycheck where you get a good job and you go over the income, bam, all your help's taken away. You
Yeah.
get no time frame to pay back bills. You get no time frame to save money and put in a savings account for an emergency. You get no opportunity whatsoever to move up. It's the second, you just come up just a little tiny bit, they want to take everything away from you, and then you end up back at the bottom. It's like give us some kind of 3-month period, a 6-month period. Yes, congratulations. You're not going to need to be on food stamps hopefully for the rest of your life. You came up a little bit. Let's help you save some money. Let's help you
Keep that
pay what you need
momentum.
to pay. Yes,
Yeah.
like there is no help here. Like Julia said, it's keeping you at low income. It's that's really what it feels like in my years of dealing with this and going back and forth and calling and just trying to figure out what can I do? What is my limit? Where am I at? And it's like, man, are you really trying to keep me here? Do you really want me to be low income? Like, I'm trying to get off of these programs. I'm trying to not, pass that down to my kids. It's not what I want. It's not that it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that, but it's not where you want to be at. It's hectic going into these offices and being disrespected every couple of months to get help, because that's majority, the 7, 8 years I've dealt with this. You will rarely find somebody that is happy to greet you, happy to see you, happy to help you. No, it's frustration, it's irritation. And I used to think, well, if I come in the morning, they're not so irritated by the end of the day. I would have that excuse, well, it's
Yeah.
already 4 o'clock. They're probably irritated. Maybe they had a bad person before me. No, they're
Yeah.
irritated to see you. They don't really care why you need the help. And it's like, no, it shouldn't be that way. When you see somebody, it should be like you're seeing your brother, you're seeing your sister, like, hey, how's it going? What do you need? Because you're gonna give to somebody that you love. You're gonna try to help somebody that you love. And we should all love each other regardless of whether I've met you before, regardless of if I know your story. I don't want to feel sorry for you. I don't want to explain my story to you and you feel sorry for me and now you want to be nice to me. No, you need my help. Here I am. You need my help. You're another person. I love you. What do you need from me? And it really, really hurts me that there's very few people that are like that. And especially when they're put in a position that you are being, we come to you every single day for help. You are seeing thousands of people that are saying, hey, I need food stamps. Hey, I need Medicaid. I'm not making enough. You're in that position. You've got to have some love in your heart. You've got to have some compassion. Don't just get this job because you like the pay. Get it because you want to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. Julia?
Yeah, I mean, I think Christina said it all, right? I think, the only thing that I would add to that is that there is a level of accountability that needs to happen across all sectors, right? And I think, political will is part of that process, right? We feel like our vote doesn't matter, if representation doesn't change, then nor would our outcome. So I think it's really important from a local level and a state level and a federal level to really understand that there is power in that vote. And that electing people who are going to represent you and your issues in ways that really are going to address these, concerns that we've been talking about for eons, that's what's going to make a difference, right? Right now, we have Congresswoman Ayanna Presley, and we have some really dope women who are representing us in Congress. But you know how long it took us to have that representation? And because of that,
Amen.
the
Mhm.
conversation and the things that they're fighting for are changing, right?
Mhm.
Things that we're hearing about on the federal level are like, wow, people actually really care about that for the first time. People are talking about mental health. People are
Yeah.
talking about, all of this, and it does matter. And I think it's important for people to understand that power. And I always tell people that even if they don't vote for someone, even if they don't know who in the world is running, just put your own name on the ballot, because what that does is that it changes the type of exposure that your neighborhood will have. It changes the type of things that your community and the resources that you will get. Put your own name on the ballot. If you don't like anyone who's running, list yourself, but at least that vote in that community will get counted and people will start paying attention to your neighborhood. I know that it's hard to trust the political process, but I only won by one vote, in 2019, and that was crazy. And that was after a recount because everyone was like, "How the world did she make that happen?" At first, it was
And if it would have been anybody else, there would not have been a recount.
but there was, and
Let me digress.
yeah. So the thing is that, and I'm happy that there was a recount because it helped people understand the power of that vote, right?
Yeah.
And I say this with all honesty, is like, we're not going to change the conversation until we change the players. And in order for us to change things on the federal and state level, we need people to run for office, or we need to make sure that the things that people are running for in their platform reflects our people.
Yeah.
And those two things need to happen if we're really going to change the poverty. The AMI, which deals with housing, who can qualify for childcare, who can qualify for food stamps. All of those things are only going to change if we change the players.
Period. 100%. I agree 100%. And a lot of those players should be us, and that's why I'm so proud of the work that you're doing, Julia. And, personally, when, I think about my situation, I would always say, well, who's going to speak up? And then a voice said, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the one that has to speak up. Maybe you're the one that needs to be on the front lines, or you're the one that needs to, apply for some of these jobs. Just like when we think about policing in our neighborhoods, when we say that we're sending people into our neighborhoods to protect and serve, but they can't resonate. They don't know what it means to be a brown or Black person in these neighborhoods. So maybe it needs to be us. Right. So we have to start speaking up. We have to start standing up, and we have to start doing the work ourselves. So that brings me to my next question. What are one or two ways, big or small, that you have personally invested in your community, and why was that important to you? Let's start with you, Julia.
I feel like for me, there's the little simple things that we could do every day that we don't even realize. Like, for example, if you go through the drive-through for the Dunkin' Donuts coffee, I don't know if you guys have Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or whatever you have, but whatever drive-through you go through in the morning, and you get the person that says, "Can I take your order?" And that person, you could tell, probably like the three cars ahead of you were like extremely mean to them or whatever, set their tone. I recycle energy. I'm like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" Like, I want people to not allow other people to steal their joy.
Yes.
Yes.
And something as simple as like recycling that energy.
Yeah.
And getting people to recognize their power. I always talk about stepping into your power, like owning it, being joyful. All of those things don't cost anything. It's just a shift in your thinking. And if I can inspire people to redirect that energy, or to be inspired in another way, or to be motivated to start their own nonprofit, or to recognize their power to speak up at a parent council meeting, all of those things are ways that I have made a difference that hasn't caused me any time, energy, or money. It's just doing that, something like that. Um, I used to do civic engagement as part of my UpTogether work, where we train people and organize them to hold elected officials accountable, right? Like, there's just things that you could do with your passion. I always say that if you live your purpose in life, and you pursue your purpose with passion, you're good. I believe everybody should be living their lives in that way, in having a purposeful life. And so I've tried to, in many ways, throughout my time on this earth, is to be a vehicle to inspire people to do just that.
Mhm.
I know you
Yeah.
probably wanted something like crazy, like
No, that's great. Because now I'm gonna recycle my energy when I go through the drive-through, and they're like, "Yes, what do you want?" But like, "Hey, how you doing?
right.
I wanted number one. What's up?" So I
Something.
absolutely love that. That was actually perfect. So thank you for sharing that. And how about you, Miss Christina?
Um, when I was physically able to, I was volunteering at the food pantries, going downtown and giving food to the homeless. That was a really big thing for me because I have been on that other end. I've been there receiving food. So it meant a lot for me to give back. Lately, with not being able to physically do any of that stuff, I'm trying to find my place. Like I said, ministry is a big thing. So I am always praying for people. I do reach out to people that I don't know. If on social media I see somebody that hasn't, just seems like they're going through something or they're struggling, I do always reach out and just say, hey, I'm always here. I'm always here. I know you don't know me. If you need prayer, you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. And same as Julia, I just went through that situation on Friday at my doctor's appointment, and the nurse was just not having it. She wasn't being rude. She just seemed like she wasn't having a good day. And I was like, hey, your hair is beautiful. And she was like, oh, thank you. And I was like, it's really pretty. And she had that gray, shine to it. And she's like, this is my natural hair. And I was like, it looks professionally done. And she was like, yeah, she's like, I've got people in their 20s that always compliment my hair. And it really, really changed her mood. I could tell that it did. And same thing, I really try to do that. I can tell, you can tell when somebody's having a bad day. You
Yeah.
don't, and people don't always want to be asked, are you okay? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Something small like, hey, I like your shoes. Hey, where'd you get that purse from? Regardless, it's just something to perk up their mood. You look beautiful today. Just something nice, because that is a big thing. From somebody that's gone through depression and somebody that's gone through being sad and going through just things in my personal life. It would always touch me if somebody were to just say something small.
Yeah.
Anything, open a door for me. Just be kind, be generous, of course. Try to fill the room. Try to see what you read off of people, because you can always help somebody out just by being kind to them.
And that's all it takes. That's all it takes, because we all are going through things that we don't know anything about, you know? So even just in terms of like your own personal, in terms of releasing your stress, like when I think about what I do to release my stress, sometimes it's just going outside and just getting some sunshine when you've been inside all day and you just need some fresh air, or maybe it's blasting your favorite music and getting in front of the mirror and just dancing. What do you ladies do to relieve that stress?
Mine is music. I love music. I love to sing. I've had days, a lot of days recently where I'm just not feeling good. I'm just sad. I'm depressed. I wake up that way. I go to sleep, and I'm like, you know what? Enough's enough. Turn off the TV, turn off my phone. I'll go in the shower and put on worship music, and I just sing until I cry, and I always feel better. Music is a very, very big thing for me. So mine is music and singing, and just if it's be sitting in my car with the radio full blast, in my room with no distractions. I'll even tell the kids, I'll come in my room for a little bit. I put my music on and just kind of release whatever it is that I'm going through. And sometimes I don't even know what it is. Sometimes I'm like, what am I even thinking about? So definitely music. Music is a big thing for me.
It's so weird because for me, I'm a workaholic, right? And I am always in community because of the work that I do. And even though it's weird, but like being with people is the best thing for me. Like I love being with people, and it's not just for work. Like I love just being with people in general, right? So I could go to like a birthday party and I'd be that chick at that birthday party and be like, oh, okay, what you want to be doing with your life and how you going to get there? Like, so I love that. I really, if I wish I could be like the fairy godmother that had a little magic wand and I could just help everybody do their life purpose. That gives me joy. And it's so weird. Like, I mean, I like music too, but I just like, I don't know. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, I yeah, being with
But it's
people.
not weird though.
Oh,
It's not
yeah,
weird.
thank you. I
We
was like, no,
need we
ma'am.
need
I wish I could tell
voices.
you I like writing, which I do, but like, and I like traveling, but like, I don't know. I'm an extrovert. Like,
Yeah.
just being with people
Yeah.
really gives me just being with people. Help making
Just soak up your energy because this is like, because you give off so much energy. So, no, that's not weird at all. Like, I love that because it's like you are able, because you know how they always tell you be careful, don't let other people mess with your energy, right? Because somebody in a bad mood is going to get you in a bad mood if you're not careful, right? If you absorb it, especially for people who are empathetic, more so than just sympathetic, but they just absorb
Yeah.
that, and your energy is just like absorbing it. Because I love the fact that you would walk into a place and kind of be the life of the party, and just come in with a smile, and and like Christina said, if someone you felt that nurse having a bad day that day and you just gave her a compliment and that was it. Like, it's so simple. So no,
little,
not weird at all. I love that. Right?
and traveling. I'll just say, if I had to say, I like traveling too.
Oh my goodness. If you travel far enough, you'll meet yourself. I hear that. I've heard that and I've never forgotten it. And I'm like, wow. Like, I think that's the thing. Again, we all get boxed into these little boxes. Sometimes we just got to step
Mhm.
out, whether it's our neighborhoods, our streets, our communities, and just expose ourselves to more because there's so much more out there that we have yet to experience. Even still, like with people's opinions of us. People have us boxed in, but it's like, yo, you don't know me. You don't see me.
Yeah.
But it's up
People have
to us to
preconceived notions. Mhm.
exactly to remove that veil and step into our own. So, wow. I appreciate you ladies so much for sharing that and
Yeah.
everything else you guys have shared today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys have any last remarks? Anything that you want to leave our listeners with today? Just, any last little tidbits.
For me, and I know for a lot of people in my community, we don't want to be another statistic. I don't. I want to thrive. I want to succeed in this world. When there's already so many obstacles in front of me, I want to break. I want to work, and I want to break just those that connection that we have of being low income. I really feel like, yeah, I've always felt from the beginning that God, everything I'm going through, God is doing it for a reason.
Mhm.
That there's a purpose behind this. I don't know why I'm sick. I don't know why I have so many health conditions. The doctors don't know why either. But through this whole process, I've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger with just knowing that there's a reason behind it. I want to help other people. I want to be that shoulder to cry on. I want you to come with me when you're having an issue with getting disability, with being on food stamps, with being on Medicaid, because I've already sat here and done this for years. I've, done the research. I've gone through what can you do, what can't you do, when can you work, when can't you work. If that's my reason, if I went through all of this to be able to help people, then I am proud to go through all of this. I am glad that it is me. I am glad that I'm going through all these trials of just, having that time period of not knowing and then being able to figure it out. I want to help other people. And I know that there are so many people out there that don't want to be labeled as another statistic. Where you're there because you chose to be there. You're low income because you chose to be low income. No, we're not. We're not. We want to thrive just as bad as anybody else does. We want to have just as much as everybody else does. We want to provide for our children just as much as everybody else does. There's obstacles in front of us, but we're not going to let that overcome us. There's no way. I know that I'm not. I know there's tons of other people out there that are not. So once that door is open for us, I just know that there's just going to be this explosion in this community to be able to help everybody and just to help people succeed. We just need that door to open so that we have the steps that we need. I just want somebody to give me that, like, here you go. This is where you're at. Go, like, fly away. I'm in, like, so I really feel like that's something that people need to know.
Christina, can I tell you this? You already are. You are already all of those things. You just continue to be you. You continue to shine, and you just continue to just move with that big, beautiful heart that you have.
Thank you.
Like, we're all so inspired by you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I ditto. And I need to know who are your state reps and councils so I can spell at them.
Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were talking about this whole idea of like why you were going through all of those things, and I just want to offer to that is that my grandmother, she raised me because both of my parents left me in the Dominican Republic to pursue their, American dream. And then when I came to this country, she came too, and she used to say to me that, because I had a really rough upbringing, and she used to tell me that no matter how bad things were, that I was on this earth for a reason, right? That I had a purpose. And she made me feel like, oh my God, I really belong here in this world for some reason. And, I had attempted suicide when I was a kid, and, I had gone through all this stuff. But it was her words of making me feel like I was special, right? Like I had a mission here that got me through so many things in life. And, everything that you go through, you're supposed to. And all of the things that we're going through, it's like a blessing if we choose to experience it as such, because that's our lived experience. And there's a reason that, like you're going into ministry now. God would not give you more than what you couldn't handle. And the reason why you are who you are and what you're going through in life is because you were supposed to. That is a beautiful gift, right? And if we choose to experience those things as gifts, that changes the way we experience life. And that was the gift that my grandmom gave me early on. And I've carried that into every space that I've gone into. And no matter how bad it is, I know that there's something good in it. And that changes my perspective. And that is what I'll offer those who are listening, is that embrace those moments, because they shape who you are. They help set the tone for how you are going to respond. And so it's all good no matter how bad it is. And so own it, because that's yours. And nobody else can have that but you.
Own it. I love it. Own it.
I love it.
I believe that would own it.
Mhm.
Councilwoman Julia Mejia and Christina Gonzalez, ladies and gentlemen. If there is a way to contact you guys, do you have social handles, an email that people can contact you if they would like?
Yes. All right. So, oh my God. Yes, please. I am asking everyone and their mother who's listening right now to please follow me on Instagram. I am at Julia FOR Boston. So that's Julia for Boston, the word for FOR. I'm Julia for Boston on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But the reason why I stress Instagram is because I do a lot of pop-up lives where I just roll up on people. And that's a way for me to connect with my folks in my just like community. So you can follow me whatever platform you want, but Instagram is where I feel like is the more personable one for me. That's the one that you really get to see who I am. So Julia for FOR Boston.
Christina?
I have no idea how to use social media besides Facebook. My kids are always just like, "Oh my God, Mom, you're so old."
We're going to get you set up, girl. Don't worry. We're going to figure it out.
And there's probably a million, Christina Gonzalez is on Facebook. But I have an email, of course, if anybody ever wants to email, reach out to me for anything. Even people that hear this and want prayer, people that hear this and want help, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is ChristinaDianda25@gmail. So then ChrisTina, then D as in David, EANDA25@gmail.
Ladies, you have no idea how much we really appreciate you guys being on with us and just even taking the time out of your schedules to talk to us.
This was a powerful episode again. Thank you both for sharing your hearts, sharing your stories, and sharing your strengths with the world. We're so glad to have you.
And you're listening to the Moving Up Together podcast. I'm your host, Mena Diaz.
And Candi Marie.
Peace out, guys.